Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Leadership Void podcast. I'm Enrique and my co host Vince, providing another guest, which is going to floor you with leadership knowledge and all that he's done in his professional arena. And Vince, I'm going to let you introduce.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm excited. Here continue on this national tour. We have the pleasure of being now in San Antonio, Texas. Timothy Dickens is the president and CEO of Dickens Consulting Group, and we have the pleasure to speak to him for the next 20 minutes. But let's just dive in. Timothy, tell us about you.
Well, first of all, let me say good morning, Vince and Enrique. And I want to thank you both for the invitation to be a guest on your program. But in the interest of time, let me give you the abbreviated version of who I am. And so I was born into an Air Force family at Donaldson Air Force Base in Greenville, South Carolina. I graduated from Bossier High School, Bossier City, Louisiana, in June of '76 because my father was stationed at Barksdale. Then I enlisted in the Air Force in July of 1976. And over the course of my career, I performed the duties as material facility specialist and inventory management specialist, supply systems. I was a military training instructor at the United States Air Force Academy, a ceremonial guardsman, and in several assignments as a command chief. I then retired from active duty in July of 2008 after the math says 32 years of service, where my final assignment was as a senior enlisted advisor for the Defense Information Systems Agency. And then, kind of the core of who I am, I'm married to Robin Johnson, who is also a retired Chief Master Sergeant. And her final assignment was as the command chief for the 11th Wing at Bowling. We have 4 grown children. And if you take nothing away from this, the best part of who I am is that I have 6 grandchildren, 3 granddaughters, Penelope Love, Mark, Michelle, and Olive, and I have 3 grandsons, Roman, Dustin, and Jeffrey. And so that's me.
Outstanding. And look, you going through your history and all of that. I'm smiling over here because you have such a rich military background to your family. I was the first of my family to go in the service, so it started with me. But you're surrounded by rich military history. So thank you all for your service and for what you guys did for our nation while you served and still doing, right? Because we retire and then enter the workforce or community
Right.
and serve in those capacities as well. So you're serving now as a president of your own consulting firm, and so what do you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay. So when I retired, I had to make a decision on whether or not I wanted to move directly into the workforce or um, give some consideration to the dream of being an entrepreneur and starting my own company. And so, based on that, I chose the latter, which was to start my own company. And so, we are a service disabled, veteran owned small business that was established initially or conceptually in 2007 and then incorporated in the Commonwealth of Virginia in 2008 as I was getting ready to retire. As you said, our headquarters is here in San Antonio, but we do work nationally and globally based on the requirements that present themselves or opportunities. And then more specifically, our consultants, our instructors, and facilitators each have 20 plus years of real world project management, leadership, coaching, training, and resiliency experience at all performance and expectation levels. So, to go just a little bit further, we're capacity builders. That means that we take individuals, groups, teams, and organizations, and we attempt to get them to recognize, realize, and reach their greatest, their fullest, but most important of all, their truest potential. So, in a nutshell, that's who Dickens Consulting Group is.
You followed your dream, which is admirable. And we're looking forward to hear about some challenges down the road. But let's talk a little bit more about. So when did you started this in '08? You said you're national globally. Uh, do you offer anything special for any special particular clients? How are you holding up in this current pandemic?
Now, that's a great question. So, let me just say, um, our model was based on not necessarily trying to attract or gain work in only one industry in the event that something happened. So we purposefully looked at getting clients who are in different industries, and it could be the Department of Defense, the federal government, it could be corporate America, higher education, in the event that something happened, that we would still be able to kind of continue to do what we're doing. So, in this COVID-19 environment, what it did was it caused us to stop, reevaluate, and really adjust our approach to organizational engagement and professional development. And what that means is we had to move from the in person mindset where we believe that we had to be there to be able to deliver. And we had to shift to a more flexible and agile approach. So now, for us, Zoom is the new dot, dot, dot. And then you ask, like, okay, what are we're currently doing? So one of the larger programs or initiatives that we're involved in right now, as a result of how everything transpired, is that we're assisting a university to help them stand up their own leadership institute. And as we help them stand up their own leadership institute, there are two subcomponents to that, which they wanted us to help them develop a 12-month emerging leaders program. And because of kind of the volatile nature of what's going on in the world today and in the United States and this society, they wanted us to help them build a 12-month anti-racism leadership program. And so those are the three initiatives that are occupying really the greatest amount of our time.
And three initiatives that are worthy of the time spent. So thank you for that work that you're doing with that university, and talking about leadership is where we're gonna roll into now, because we all know that as we serve in the military, we move up the ranks. It gets harder because of our attention span, right? We had to see, we get thin. There's a lot of people knocking on our doors and looking for our time. So what do you do currently that helps you develop as a leader?
So I would say, great question that you continue to ask individuals, because I've watched a number of your sessions, and I'm always getting new nuggets. So for me, I'm constantly looking for ways to continue learning, maturing, and growing as an individual, as a business owner, and as a citizen of the world. So what I do or have to do based on the certifications that I have, I'm required to get about 40 to 60 continuing education units every 2 to 3 years, which then keeps me engaged in being able to ensure that I don't sit back. I'm always kind of learning, reading, growing. But one of the things that, as I mentioned, that allows me to be able to kind of expand my view is watching sessions like the Leadership Void that I was recently introduced to. But then I say, where has this been for the last couple of years, because in watching many of the segments that were provided, there were nuggets embedded in that I was able to kind of, individuals shared resources, they shared perspective. So it's the leadership void. I take a look at the What Now movement, which primarily focuses on the business aspect of my learning and development. And then I participate in webinars, or meaning the delivery of webinars with the Institute for Leadership and Strategic Foresight, partnering with Dr. Jose Lugo Santiago, who is the chief futurist that says we can't sit back and just kind of accept things for what they are. We have to ensure that we're paying attention to what is happening, and then being able to not necessarily be reactive, but be proactive to how we look at life, how we look at leadership, how we look at the environment that we're expected to, exist in.
Oh, definitely, a global view, because we have to be tapped into what's going on in our surroundings, and because it affects us and impacts us. And as a leader, I'm very curious, what sage advice did you receive as you as you became a leader, as you emerged in through the ranks?
Early on, so you've got to remember that when I was in kind of the emerging leader zone, that was like in the mid 70s. So the world was a little bit different than it is now. But the advice, at least a piece of some early advice that I got, was don't just be good at what you do, be great at it. And that means that to be great at it, you have to learn as much as you can about the work that you do, while you ensure that you learn how the work that others do around you, directly or indirectly, you connect to it, contribute to it, or impact it. So you gotta know a little bit more about just your job. You got to look at what's happening on the fringes of it. And that's the lesson that I still use today. I don't want my team to learn about organizations that we partner with, getting to where we get the org chart or prior reports, etc. I want them, no, I need them to know and understand the DNA of the organization, the culture, climate, and the environment, but more specifically, the soul of the organization, because then that helps us engage with the organization in a more meaningful and in a deeper way.
Yeah, that's wonderful. As you was telling that piece right there, the big red book, "Good to Great," came to my mind real quick. Right, and undoubtedly, a lot of us leaders that grew up in the military had an opportunity to at least read that once.
Mm-hmm.
And talking about greatness, there are some things that keep us up at night as leaders, right? Especially when you're leading a large group of people. But if you ask me, even if you led one person, there should be some things that keep you up at night, just because of the responsibility of leadership. So, in that, in that area of talk about challenges and things that keep you up at night, what are some of the things that you see as challenges and that keep you up?
Right now, I would say, for me as a leader, it is, am I doing all that I can do as a leader? Am I being as effective as I should be as a leader? Do I know what I need to know as a leader? And then being able to kind of lead, inspire, motivate the individuals um, that have entrusted me with the designation of being the leader. And so it is kind of a personal responsibility and a level of accountability that I put on myself that says, okay, you've got to make sure that you bring your A game every day, which means that for me, I can only have three kinds of days with my people. good, great, and phenomenal days. Anything other than that is counterproductive to how they need to be able to engage and do their work. And so the example is I say, think about, you in the past where you had a boss and you had to wait until you figured out what kind of day your boss was having, that then drove whether or not you were going to be able to get the things done that you needed to get done. I don't want to be that leader. I need to be the one that's at least somewhat consistent so that they aren't like frozen waiting for to see like, okay, he's having like a bad day, so we got to tiptoe around. No, that's counterproductive.
Fabulous. The good, the great, or the phenomenal mentality, reframing it because it's true. You know, we have the biggest bullseye on our back, and folks know all our every move, and they do accordingly or act accordingly based on how we are reacting and feeling. So, that great way to face adversity, face challenges, keep yourself grounded, keep yourself humble. Um, what other strategies you work with and deal with the team, or strategies to the change, deal with change?
Okay, I can capture that in two words: semper gumby. And that means always flexible. And I need the folks to remember that. I encourage the people that I work with to be open minded, be risk takers, and to be innovative. I don't want them to sit back and wait for me to be able to kind of tell them what they need to think, what they need to say, what they need to do. Because I recognize that change is an unavoidable reality that we have to embrace. And the sooner that you get to that point, the better. I need the team to be open to change, be flexible or creative in their thinking, and then be accountable for the decisions that they make. And more importantly, not to me, but to the entire team that they're working with. And the example that I use is COVID-19 is the great equalizer today. It doesn't matter who you are, your title, your status, rank, how much money you make, you're going to be affected by this in some way. And then ultimately, it is what's going to be the main qualifier in all of this is not if you respond, but how you respond. And if you have kind of the mindset that says, I need to be flexible, I need to be agile, I need to embrace change. Because now when we're having the discussion, there is no back to normal. There is a new normal that is being created right now. And for us, we have to be prepared for whatever that new normal levels itself out as. Just like in 9/11, you remember what we went through. And when we went through all of this, we kind of eventually leveled itself out, but it took probably 2.5, almost 3 years for us to kind of see what that was going to look like. And so this is no different. It's going to take some time. And we have to, be flexible and agile enough to kind of manage where we are, but also to even contribute to what our future is going to look like.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Earlier you mentioned Semper Gumby, right? And any that will lead us through a whole lot of COVID environment and changes that are coming through that. What other motto do you live by, or do you have that you say, "Oh, that's it. That's what I'm gonna live my day by today."
Well, I've shared a couple of them with you. So when I say, I can only have good, great, or phenomenal days, when I talk about Semper Gumby, when I talk about the relationships that we establish, as leaders, it's not necessarily what you know or who you know. Sometimes it's who knows you, and you've got to be able to then kind of manage that. So when I talk to leaders, I say, you may not be the one that wants to go out and you think it's sucking up to somebody, but in reality, it's not about you. It's about your people. And if there are things that you can do to help you, their development, their engagement, then you have a responsibility as a leader to be able to do it. So you don't have to know certain individuals who will provide you like information or access to different things. You know them, or you want them to know you because you want to be the first thought if they've got something that will benefit your people. Not, you don't want to be, or your team, you don't want them to be an afterthought. So
Yeah, I'm just pleased you followed your dream, because Dickens Consulting Group is needed in the world, and I'm grateful that you're doing some great emerging leadership work with the university and anti-racial work. So that's awesome, and all the pearls of wisdom you have shared. So for folks on the call or listening in, how do they get a hold of you or your consulting group?
okay, so you can go to our website, and that's Dickens Consulting Group, one word.com. If you want to get in touch with me, T Dickens at dickensconsultinggroup.com. And if you've got a little bit of time, give me a call. My number is 210-386-0344.
Outstanding. So, folks, we're going to have that information as part of the video, and definitely part of the context of our podcast. So, look for that information. Reach out to Timothy. Timothy, it's been a great pleasure speaking with you today. Like I said earlier, thank you all for your service and your rich history with the military. It's always heartwarming to see a family legacy of military service. So thank you for that. And folks, if you want to reach us at the leadership void at gmail.com is our email address. And you can send us requests for leadership topics to discuss. If you'd like to be on our podcast, you can also reach out to us there. And as we like to say all the time, if you have some swag and you want to throw it our way, we'll gladly represent you in our podcast. It's so heartwarming, like I said earlier, to see leadership emerge from service and continue that service, which is what you guys are doing with your consulting group. So thank you so much, Timothy. I really appreciate you guys.
Absolutely. And
And
if I could, before you sign off, again, let me thank you for the work that you do, your service, and the platform that you're providing for discussions like this. The, people don't recognize it, but there is a leadership void, and you're the one that provides the ability for organizations like mine and others to be able to come and share a perspective. And so with that, I do want to say thank you for what you do. And we've got to get the word out about you, because more people need to see who you are, know who you are, and recognize that you're a very valuable resource.
thank you for your words, folks. You heard it from Timothy. Definitely subscribe to our YouTube channel. But Dickens Consulting Group is there in San Antonio, Texas, but it can work with you nation or globally. So again, thank you for your pearls of wisdom. This was a fantastic year. Continue to be good, great, or phenomenal. It's amazing. And we will continue the journey in the Alamo City in San Antonio next week and speak with Cortez Riggs, the founder of the Military Influencer Conference, MIC, and he is also the co-founder of Triple Nickel. So we're excited next week to speak with him. But for today was Timothy Dickens. Thank you so much again. Have a great day, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.